premature population.
Something like that.
It's going to be hard to top last year, no doubt.
Last year was pretty good for your mule deer killer or something like that.
I've killed one in every state they're in.
Yeah.
The only person in history to do
What's the
that.
furthest east mule deer go?
Well, let you guess. I know you guess.
I would guess somewhere in the Dakotas, maybe Nebraska. Nebraska, be my guess.
Nebraska, Kansas.
Kansas has mule deer?
Yes, and
Yeah.
some big ones.
I killed a 200 there, sir.
Western.
Killed a 200 and a 194. So the furthest east probably is South Dakota, Nebraska, or Kansas.
Do you want to flick your light on over there?
Oh, shit, yes, sir.
And it's probably Kansas, actually.
What was my guess? Nebraska.
Dakotas. But they're all valid guesses because it's almost a straight line down. Almost. Look at your little pink guy.
Little pink guy?
Oh, you're
Isn't
drinking.
he cute?
His whittle.
Yeah. This is probably smart. I've had like 4 cups of coffee. We probably had to stick with one small one.
Yes, sir.
Low octane.
It just feels like warm water anymore. I just drink it so
Now, who are
much.
these dogs?
These are Tim's dogs. They just like to come in and hang
They're
out while we're
super
doing
well
stuff.
mannered. I like them. I like you guys. Yeah, bud.
Sometimes they get a little ornery and want to get out and party.
come on up.
They like to cuddle.
I like to bark at brisket.
Yeah.
Yeah,
boy.
which is not acceptable behavior.
Yeah.
Got to leave the cow alone.
Yeah. No
Oh, yeah.
picking on Mau Mau.
Yeah, have you seen the old Highland cow?
Your cat?
Cow. Moo
Oh,
moo.
cow.
I have a Highland
No.
cow.
No.
He's a cow guy now.
Yeah. You want to check out Brisket before you leave for the day?
Is Brisket future Brisket? Is
No,
Brisket-
just an affectionate name that
Okay.
the girlfriend gave him.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
He was strong-armed into getting a cow.
Oh, how we doing here? It's open.
Yeah, I don't know.
We
That
might
one's,
have our first
that
non-starter
one's
the
on the
entire
edge,
year.
yeah.
Yeah, so we got a problem here.
Whoa.
Probably throw a couple more pieces of paper in there. We'll get at it
Oh,
here.
doggy dog.
Do you have dogs, George?
No, I have a giant,
I can-
and I mean giant cat.
Oh, yeah.
cat.
29.8 pounds.
A fat cat?
He's a Maine Coon.
Look, that's a Pope and Young. That's a Boone and Crockett.
No, he's a shooter. He's a first day shooter.
He's reached maturity?
Yeah. Well, they actually could. He's a skosh over 2 years. I think he'll get 30 to 32 pounds by the time he bottoms out.
By the time he bottoms out.
And he's chill like these dogs, man. If he was here, he'd be on the floor or on the couch just like these two dogs.
Well, fun fact about that dog on your right. Today's Louis' birthday. I
Louis'
was reminded.
birthday.
What? Happy birthday.
He's 9. That birthday dog is 9.
Go, buddy.
Little
He knows it's his
little
birthday,
cheersage.
too.
You can open your beverage now, sir.
Did we do a podcast last year on his birthday?
I think we did.
Yeah.
I think it landed on his birthday again.
And we're going to review these, George. So we're going to get your professional opinion on these.
Interesting.
Ultra Fantasy.
Not right
Ruby
away,
Red.
though. We can hang on to that for a little bit.
Have it go for a bit.
Let you marinate on it. Well, Josh, go
too
ahead and
shabby.
introduce your friend here.
So this is a long time. For how long have we known each other? Over a decade, probably. At this
Oh,
point?
yeah.
Well
At
over a
this
decade.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, you knew me when I was never hunting, always working,
Stressed.
married,
I knew
stressed,
the stress.
Yeah.
young kids, the whole bit. She's known
Yep.
me a really long time.
Is it the kind of relationship where you can measure it and how much your balls have got closer to the ground?
Something like that. Yeah, probably somewhere in that.
Yeah, but I believe
facet.
yours have risen back up.
You may have
They
been
came
correct,
back up a
actually.
little?
Yeah, I got a little tight on me. Yeah. Yeah, no, I've known George for, decade plus.
2011-ish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
almost
so we're
15 years
probably-
now. He's been a sales rep of mine in one facet or another, but more than anything, a really good friend that I've enjoyed spending time with and got to actually start hunting with here recently, which is a ball.
We tore it up.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things I didn't know about George, actually, until we went out hunting. I didn't know he was one of the greatest deer killers that ever existed on planet Earth, which he's got a pretty extensive list. Name off an accolade or two. Not to mention,
Well-
he's currently the Sitka rep and Crispy rep, by the way.
I like hunting Bambi. Bambi's dad specifically. Got a great story about that the first time I ever saw Bambi with my little daughter. I'd never seen Bambi.
Oh, yeah?
And there's that opening scene where Bambi's dad makes that quick appearance.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there with my daughter, Caitlin. I go, Caitlin, Bambi's dad is a monster. And she goes, monster? I go, that thing's a first day shooter. And she goes running down the hallway to her mother, Mommy, Daddy says that Bambi's dad is a shooter. I said, amen, girl. Yeah.
Got
that
it
was
right.
my first time I saw Bambi's dad. But yeah, I like hunting Bambi's dad. It took me 4 years in college to finally see a buck.
Really?
I went to school at Washington State.
I said, where'd you go to college? Yeah.
I went to Wazoo.
Wazoo.
Yeah.
How was that?
And I was there during the peak, the rise in the subsequent fall of the fraternity system.
Oh, yeah?
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
I was
dude,
there.
tell us a
And
story.
it was
Because
still
fraternities down there
Animal-
can be a big deal.
They're Animal House.
Animal House was
Yes.
in full session when I was there.
Wow.
Yes.
Yes, it
Yes.
was. I was Captain Sig.
That's where the skills came from.
So, some form of some skills. Yes, sir. And I'd never deer hunted till I got to Washington State. And part of the reason why I went there is I knew I could pheasant hunt. I'd never done that. I'd been a keen angler all my life from a child, and that's the other part of my professional life is a fly fishing rep. And
What are you repping for?
I rep sage rods. I rep Sitka fish, which is the fishing portion of Sitka.
Okay.
Rio fly lines, various and sundrious things in the fly fishing theater.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that some, but I don't
Sure.
want to distract you from Pullman.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not getting away from that.
Going to
There's better be at
gentlemen,
least 3 good stories. from
going to
Pullman.
Washington State is essentially like going to high school for an additional 4 years. And I was a criminal justice major of all things, but I'd never hunted. And I was keen on becoming a bird hunter. I shot 101 roosters in 4 years with no dog. Ooh. Which meant I had to choose my academic load carefully. Such as
Well, as does any professional person at Wazoo.
Such take only 8 credits in the fall, but then go 18 in the spring.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a
And
pro
do your
move right
best
there.
to make sure your parents couldn't sort that out,
That's wise.
which I pulled off.
wise.
I couldn't get into any classes this fall.
Yeah.
I got to take them
Yeah.
all in the spring.
So,
Bummer.
It just didn't work
yeah,
out.
that one's not available. And I hunted birds like crazy, but it took me. I did not see any buck, till the 4th season of deer hunting down there.
What was
which
your
was
What was your gun of choice in that era? Do you remember?
Weatherby Vanguard 300 Win Mag with a, good Lord, I'd have a Bushnell Banner 3x9 scope on it. If I
Quality
believe.
scope
How
there.
about for your pheasants?
Yeah, what was your shotgun?
I had a Stevens.
Ooh.
I
haven't
believe
even-
it was
I
a
haven't heard of
model
Stevens.
67 pump that I bought at Payless Drug back in Bellevue,
Beautiful.
Bellevue, Washington, for $167. I will never forget that. And that thing was wicked good for 4 years.
That's awesome.
The cheapest gun shoots best.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I finally saw a buck. I was pheasant hunting, and I was driving around in my, perfect college hunter's vehicle, a 280Z. Sport hunt mobile.
So you're a bit of a
And
pimp.
I got out to walk a draw, and I spotted a buck, probably pretty close to 0.4 of a mile away, with a group of does. Last 3 days of the season, had the 300 mag in the car in case something fortuitous happened. And a couple hours later, I managed to get in position to kill that deer. 3x3 with no eye guards, a whitetail.
Beautiful.
Down there by La Crosse. I was just south of La Crosse is where I was. And so that started my deer career. Today, So that was 1980, fall of 83. And here we are going into the fall of 25. And I think my career buck count is 337.
God damn.
337.
Over how many years? What was your first?
I killed my first deer
how old were
in
you?
1983.
Okay.
And then I didn't start bow hunting until
22 years.
2014.
Okay. 11
And
years.
I have killed 116 bucks with a bow in the last 11 seasons. So I've been on a pretty good run.
It's double digits every year.
Pretty good run.
Yeah. I
For
was
those,
doing,
for those not doing the math in their head, that's double digits every year.
so you said $337 and you started
I killed my first one in fall of 83.
83. So
Yeah.
we're looking at 40 years.
years,
So
yeah.
we're talking about $8 a year for 40 years.
Yeah.
If we started right now,
Right?
yeah,
Pretty wild, isn't it?
I wouldn't be getting there.
Yeah.
Well,
So remember I said he might be the greatest killer of deer ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
wild.
the other good
That's
thing that
wild.
came out of Pullman was all this pheasant hunting I did, which was expansive, like fanatical level.
Yeah.
Showed me a lot of places. And in 1985, going back over there, I was out of school. I was out. I wasn't kicked out, but I was certainly out.
Graduated.
And I deer hunted opening day of 1985, and I killed what would become the Washington State record whitetail
Oh my God.
about 20 minutes from campus.
Wow.
He scored 190 and 5/8 gross typical, netted 181 and 7/8.
Oh my God.
And he stayed the state record for a pretty good chunk of time, like maybe 20 years. And then there's been a handful of bucks that beat him and beat him handily, I might add, including one Colville slob that I think's 196 and 4/8 net or something
Wow.
of that. So Washington State, no surprise to you guys, is really one of the deep, dark secrets in the whitetail world.
well, we don't. Yeah. I mean,
There are big whitetails in the southeast corner in the this country of the Palouse, and certainly in northeast has produced some absolute utter giants over the years, and continues to produce big bucks every year
it
in the
definitely
whitetail
comes
theater.
with its own sets of challenges too. But yeah, of all the things there are in Washington State, we have pretty good deer in pockets, and then we have a lot of bears.
A lot of boo-boo.
A lot of bears. And if you're really good at elk hunting, you might be able to find yourself a nice elk, if you're working really hard. And there's portions of the state. The world record came out of Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the most
The
recent.
pending one, the Casey
Pending,
Brooks
yeah.
Bowl
Yeah.
over there by Ellensburg. Yep. Well, I made mule deer a priority in the late 80s after taking a reasonable amount of bucks in Wyoming, Montana, Colorado, Idaho, Washington, even Oregon. I'd never killed a big one. And after about, good solid 5 years of pursuing them, I'd seen a handful of big ones, various places, Colorado, Idaho, Oregon. I finally decided that in order to kill big mule deer, I was going to have to get focused where they are.
So
Not
you-
just hunting them, but where they are.
So you pointed your laser beams on big mule deer.
Yeah, I hit a point after killing yet another 160 buck in southeast Montana that I needed to get serious about it. And I looked at it kind of falling back on my fly fishing background. I guided in Alaska in the 80s. And I thought, hey, if you want to catch big king salmon, number one, you got to go where they are. You can't catch them where they're not. So, certain rivers in Alaska lent themselves to that, led by the Kenai at that point, but certainly some in Bristol Bay. I thought I've got to turn my process here that direction. And so I immediately got more serious about Colorado, Utah.
How were you doing the research at this time?
At that time, we
Was
did
it
not
word of
have
mouth
this.
or?
This was, call this the late 80s, 1990, 91, 92. let's call it a period of time between 88 and 92, that, basic 5-year period, making lots of phone calls, talking to people, talking to anybody and everybody
Just
that
beating the brush.
could offer up something of interest, or somebody tell you one thing, and then that phone call led to another phone call. And I started hunting Colorado and Utah at a really avid level. And between 1991 and 1995, just that first 5 years of the decade, I think I killed a half a dozen mule deer over 190.
Wow. What did hunting pressure feel like at that time? Did you feel like you're going into these places and seeing quite a few people, or were you getting out there on your own a little bit? Or
Well, depending on what you were doing. And again, public land in places like Colorado and Utah has always had its fans, right? And always its participants. But when I made this commitment to get focused on big mule deer, this took me to start to, where are they? Where are my odds killing one? And when I say big, big at that point was, can we kill one over 190? I'd killed lots of them that were 140 to 160. And so I was hunting places like Deseret in Utah, 250,000 acre ranch that was owned by the Mormon Church at that point. And I had a 4-year run on there where I killed 3 over 195, and
wow.
I missed one in the low 190s. A buck that I just flat missed. I also saw the biggest mule deer I've ever seen, ever. A non-typical I felt was scaring 240. And I watched him at 800 yards with a 270 Weatherby mag at my side and didn't even think about shooting at him. The very next year I would have a Thompson setup 378 Weatherby that I could shoot at those distances. Thompson being those Utah boys who set up that shooting system on Weatherbys, specifically that 378. That deer that day, this buck that I had him at 205 typical plus 25 to 35 inches of junk. A buck that Doyle Moss had told me to go look for on this particular ridge on Deseret. And we found him first thing. I mean, it was almost like, hey, go around the corner and, this guy will be waiting for you. Well, it was literally, we came out on this ridge and glassed, and here's this giant, and there's about a 185 buck with him. And we just watched him at about 800 yards, just watched. Didn't even ever look at my rifle as if Hail Mary went over there. We would spend all week looking for that buck. We saw him one time, and late that week, I got a shot at a couple 100 yards on a running deer that I felt was in the low 190s. Even though I had that deer bedded at 600 yards, made a stalk on him, wanted to get to 400. Mm-hmm. I know you're probably listening to this, Josh, going 600. Why didn't you just shoot from there?
Yeah, well,
I had that same 270 Weatherby, and I wanted to get to 400, and I was going to shoot him at 400 bedded. At 500 yards, we bumped a doe, which bumped him, and then we were off to the races. So the next 3 years, I would kill bucks on Deseret over 195, 3 years in a row.
Wow.
So that Colorado, I was killing great deer in those two states, mule deer wise, and I guess one of the things to throw out for numbers or stats, I've killed 52 mule deer that score over 170, killed 18 over 190. I think of those 18 over 190, I think 6 are over 200. Wow. And I've killed them in some odd places. You'd hear numbers like that and go, Colorado, Utah, those are obvious places, right, to kill them. But I've got a 200 out of Washington State.
That's amazing.
Ritzville late unit, killed a 215 buck one year. Got a 217 archery buck out of Eastern Oregon, out of the North Side unit. I have a 200-inch buck out of Kansas. I got a 207 out of the state of California.
That's amazing.
So what happened was I got real hardcore about this mule deer thing, and I was still hunting whitetails, and I was absolutely hunting elk, all rifle at that point. And, the obvious states, right? Colorado, Utah, throw in a little Montana, throw in some Idaho, New Mexico. I killed a 201 buck on the Hickory Indian Reservation in the early 90s before anybody really knew what was going on there, which I will tell you today is still probably the most hallowed mule deer ground in the United States is the Hickory Indian Reservation there in northwest New Mexico, 2 million acres.
Damn.
That's the only place I've ever been where we actively pass up deer over 190. Actively. Stupidly. Actively pass up. Like need head exam and sort of stunts.
Yeah.
And I've been in on, I can tell some real doozies. But the first year I got on there, I killed a 201 buck. And my guide was completely unimpressed with it. My Indian guide. And, for the longest time, I was like, how are you not impressed with a 201 buck with a 7-inch drop time that I named the deer Ice Pick from the Sharon Stone movie?
Oh yeah.
So I named him Ice Pick.
If you know, you know.
And if you know, you know. And it finally dawned on me after my second trip to the Hickory. Those guys fully expect to kill the burst buck any given day in the month of December. The burst buck is the world record typical mule deer from Dolores County, Colorado, I believe. And those guys expect to kill it. They expect to see it, kill it. So a 200-inch deer to them is, about like we'd look at a 150 whitetail in the state of Kansas. Going, that's a nice buck, right on. What else going on here, right? So, but that was I would say that's the most hallowed ground I've hunted. But I've been in on Kansas. I've had 3 tags in Kansas and killed one in the 190s at 200 and a solid 180 buck in Kansas. Kansas obviously is known for whitetails, but it's got some incredibly good mule deer. It's essentially Western Kansas is an extension of Eastern Colorado. It's basically, you cross a border, but it's essentially the same thing.
Gotcha.
And I think it was in, golly, what year was it, guys? 2016. I killed a mule deer in Arizona in January on that late bow hunt. And I was in a camp, and I was with a Sitka elite athlete by the name of Jeff Simpson, who's from Kansas, played at the University of Oregon, and went on to play for the Packers, and a guy named Robin Yount, which
He's a pitcher, wasn't he?
He was a pitcher for the Brewers, and he won. He's in the Hall of Fame, and you probably remember him if you ever went back and Les Finley tastes great Miller Lite commercials with him and George Brett going at it on camera. Yeah. But we're sitting there at dinner the night that I killed this buck, and Jeff Simpson says, "Well, where haven't you killed a mule deer?" And I said, "Man, that's a great question." So I went and grabbed a piece of paper and a pen, and I wrote out all the states that mule deer were in. Most people can't even name them all. They're going to miss 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Some people are going to miss 3 or 4. But I knew where they all were, and I wrote them all down, and then I checked off the ones I'd killed one in. And I was only missing 2. I was missing North Dakota, and I was missing the one that very few people even realize there's mule deer in, Oklahoma. And so I came home from that Arizona hunt, and I started making phone calls. I called all my historical mule deer mentors, George Beatus from Montana, Jay Gates from Arizona, Kim Bonnet from Utah, Ryan Hatch from Utah, Jason Campbell from Utah. Asked every single one of them. I said, has anybody ever killed a mule deer in all 17 states? And to a man, they said, nah, nobody's done this. Nobody's even thought of doing this. Most people couldn't name the states. I said, yeah, I found that out. They said, no, I don't believe anybody has. I don't believe anybody's. He said there were some guys who tried to kill a whitetail in every state, Canadian province, and Mexico. And one of them, Jay Gates, told me that. And he said they bottomed out at like 38 and they gave it up. I think they were out of time or money or both. But I proceeded. I got off these phone calls after, and then I thought, I got to figure out. I just now spotted that giant whitetail shed underneath.
Oh, yeah. Look at your brain go, ooh, look at that bad boy.
I just saw that thing.
That's Oscar right there.
Yeah, Oscar's a big one.
He's big one.
He's a big one.
Yeah.
I started researching, and North Dakota was, and Oklahoma. These are not easy states to get it sorted out about mule deer. And how as a non-resident you going to hunt them? Where are you going to go? And I met some guys from Standing Rock Indian Reservation in North Dakota. And actually the res spans both states, North, South Dakota. And I met these guys at Safari Club, and I did not get a card out of them. Or, I got their names, fortunately, but I didn't get a phone number. And they'd film their hunts, these guys, these hardcore tribal members of the Standing Rock. So I had a video, and I had some names. And these guys were killing all sorts of great deer on camera, both mule deer and whitetails. And it took me almost 3 months to track one of them down. His name was Steve Sitting Bear, ex-Marine, back, in the homeland. And I finally got him on the phone. And I had to call, I don't know how many people I called. I had to call the tribe. I had to call I made call after call after call, internet search. Finally got a number for this guy. Finally got him on the phone. I said, Steve, I met you at Safari Club. And I said, I want to come hunt mule deer with you. And I got a reason why I want to do it. And here's my point and purpose. And I want a bow hunt. And he said, call this guy and line it up. So I did. So I went out in 2000.
What was the timeline you were transitioning towards bow hunting again?
I just started in 14, so I was a couple years in.
Okay.
And at that point, I was wanting to try to bow hunt everything. Just
kind of got the bug.
Everything.
My guy.
The needle was in the arm.
Yeah.
And the arrow was in the arm, truly. And I went bow hunted, and I got an antelope tag, and I got a deer tag. And I hunted with 5 tribal guys. They kind of were they were kind of a posse, and they were all knowledgeable. They were all been hunting since little kids, and they knew the res like the back of their hand. And one of them, Jeremy, I'll think of his name in a minute. He was another ex-Marine. And this guy could see like no one I'd ever been around. And those tribal guys on the Hickory can see like nobody's business. This guy, Jeremy Thunderhawk.
Yes, that's awesome.
Great big tall guy.
You don't have to change one. You don't have to change one letter to be a porn star.
The other guys told me, they said, whatever day you go with him, he will see stuff at a level that you won't believe. Just watch him when you're with him. And the first day that I did hunt with Jeremy, he spotted stuff that was nothing short of witchcraft, voodoo. He spotted one buck where he's describing, he and I are sitting on a hillside, it's fairly open country in North Dakota. It's up in the northwest corner. The res spans both states, and he's looking at this brush. It's kind of one of these isolated brush patches, and I'm going, whoa, that's a brush patch, and there's nothing sitting in front of it. So like, where do you see this thing? He goes, you see the quasi hole in the brush? And I said, it looks like there is kind of an entry, like something could go in there. He goes, look at the face of it, and then take your eyes 10 feet into that tunnel, and there's a buck. And I said, there's what? And he goes, there's a buck bedded inside that brush patch. I think it's about 10 feet in. I said, dude, seriously? And so he goes, I don't know how big it is, but it's there. And I couldn't see it for love nor money. But because of what the guys had told me about this guy, I went ahead and made a stalk on it. Because I figured if it was there, I was going to bump it. I probably wasn't going to shoot it. Because number one, I didn't know how big it was or wasn't. Mm-hmm. But I knew that this was maybe the most crazy spot of a buck that I'd ever been a party to. So I made a stalk on this thing. And I basically came up on this brush patch like I was coming up on an outhouse. And I kind of came around the edge, and it got to the point where I had to come right to this opening. And sure as shit, this forkhorn comes screaming past me right out of that hole. And I was like, oh, my God. And so at that point, for the rest of the hunt, and I mainly hunted with this guy at that point, that's who I wanted to hunt with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanted to hunt with, the messiah of spotting. And he made spot, every day he made some spot that didn't even seem humanly possible. And I ended up killing a buck on the 6th of an 8-day gig. And it was a buck that was bedded out in some little open, kind of a dried out, let's call it a little swamp that was dried out in the prairie. And I mapped out my stalk. And about a third of the way into my stalk, and an antelope buck crossed behind me. So I went ahead and shot him because I had tag. Mm-hmm. Turned around, he's 43 yards behind me, crossed behind me, so I shot him. He went over the hill. So I backtracked, went over the hill. He was still alive, so I shot him again. I don't remember, I was 38 yards or something. Mm-hmm. Saw him go down, thought, okay, I'm up here. And I thought, ooh, I think I like my stalk position from here better than the one I was on. Mm-hmm. So I went from there. I got 15 yards from this bedded buck, stood on him for an hour. He stood up, stretched. A hard shot him. And he went 200 yards on a hard shot, but I watched him fall. So I had state number 16 in the bag. Mm-hmm. I would go to Oklahoma in November. Oklahoma's a tough one. There's not a ton of deer. It's almost all private land. I found an outfitter, and I went with him. And on the 6th day, the last day, I got a shot on I don't remember. It was a small 4x4. First time I'd gotten even in a position. I'd come close to taking a couple shots, and I'd passed up a couple of bucks. And I'd seen some nice elk, by the way. And so I shot at a buck. He was 56 yards, quartered away last day. Hit him back, but thought I probably caught liver, and I was hoping I got offside lungs. We blood trailed that deer for 5.5 hours, and then finally lost it. And I'm pretty sure I livered him, but we didn't find him. And they didn't find him in subsequent rifle season. So that one went to pieces on me. It would take me 2 more years to come back to Oklahoma to finish the task. Mm-hmm. And a dentist buddy of mine in Oklahoma City told me to call a game warden, ex-game warden for that part of Oklahoma, who told me an outfitter to go with, a guy from Texas. And I met with this guy at Sheep Show the season before, and his name was Richard Sanchez. And Richard runs hunts in Kansas. He runs the Yeti, the two founding brothers of Yeti.
Oh, okay.
He runs their ranch in Kansas, and he guides in Oklahoma, and he guides in Texas. And I said, Richard, I got to kill state number 17. Mm-hmm. I don't care if he scores 52 or 252. I don't care. I don't give a shit. This assignment has become somewhat of a pain in the ass. And he said, well, if that's all we got to do, he said, I think we can get her done. So I made arrangements, went to Oklahoma the first week of December, rifle. I bought an elk tag because I'd seen enough elk. People go, elk, Oklahoma. I bought an elk tag, and I killed a great 6x5 mule deer first evening.
Awesome.
With a 7mm Weatherby mag, and by God, the task was done. And then I hunted elk for another 5 days. And we saw various bulls, saw some big ones on camera, couldn't catch up on them. They're absolute gypsies in that part of the country. But state number 17 in the bag.
Nice job.
Now, for a bonus question for you gentlemen, there is an 18th state that is known on given years to have mule deer in it. For a bonus question, what state do you think that might be?
You go ahead, Josh, because I have an answer that.
I don't have an answer, so you should go first, and I'll think.
Okay. Well, was Texas
thinking.
part of the original 17?
Yep. I killed a 202 buck there.
Okay. So Texas was going to be my guess, so let me think about that.
What were the states that of the 17? Can you name the 17
The ones
states?
we've talked about today is Texas, Oklahoma, North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas. Those are the
So you missed
Nebraska. We talked about.
Washington, Oregon, California,
California,
Nevada, Arizona, Utah, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico.
Okay.
But there's an 18th, and nobody gets it.
Okay.
It's going to shock you when I tell you. And it's not Iowa, gentlemen.
Missouri?
That's one of the most frequent guesses. The answer is no.
All right. Well,
Nor is it Arkansas.
Arkansas? I want to guess that.
No, people guess that.
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Alaska.
I was gonna ask you if a mule deer are ever in Alaska. I was thinking blacktail for
once
sure.
in a great while.
They come out of the Yukon, and they've worked their way in the Yukon out of
Like
out of
northern
British
Alberta,
Columbia, and maybe Alberta as well.
yeah.
There are years when they come down the Yukon, out of the Yukon, into Alaska. And so the year after I'd killed that Oklahoma buck, I'd gotten wind of a mule deer buck getting hit by a car just south of Fairbanks.
Oh, weird.
And a fishing guide had told me about it. And so I sauntered into fishing game in Fairbanks that next summer. I was up there seeing dealers, and I was pike fishing. And I sauntered into fishing game. And I went right to the counter, and there's a guy there. And I said, I'm in here for a reason that you'd never guess on God's green earth. I said, I'm the only person in history that's killed a mule deer in all 17 states. But I've learned that you're state number 18, that you guys have had some mule deer here. And he goes, I got just the guy for you to talk to. He said, the biologist right over there.
Oh, that's cool.
So he walks me over to the biologist. So I explained why I'm in there asking about this. And the guy goes, yep, we documented that buck that was hit by a car. We were able to get our mitts on it, DNA tested, yada, yada. He said, there's been one other one on the military base here. And he said, but I don't believe there's any here now. And he said, you got to get a couple of mild winters in a row to have any mule deer come into here from the Yukon. And I said, okay. I said, fair enough. I said, who do you think has got the greatest level of knowledge of where you might find one on a given year with the right conditions? He goes, our contracted moose survey pilots would be who you'd want to talk with. I said, is that so? And he goes, they see everything. And I said, noted. So I'm waiting to see a couple of mild winters in a row, and this one has been reasonably mild. So it won't this year.
2025.
25.
Yeah.
24, 25 winter has been fairly mild in Alaska. In a relative scale of mild, you know. I lived in Anchorage at one point for 8 years, and so it's all relevant, right? So anyway, but we probably have to get a couple of them together. But I've got a kid up there, quasi on retainer, to pay attention. He's actually one of my pike guides that I use out of Fairbanks, and I jokingly have him on mule deer retainer in Alaska.
That's funny. So you have kind of a great white buffalo of sorts to chase.
Yeah. But it was cool to kill one in all 17 states. And like I said, some of the biggest ones I've killed they haven't been, on the Arizona Strip or
not where you'd expect.
Paunsaugunt.
Yeah.
But I've killed big ones, and I haven't had a strip or a kaibab tag, but I have hunted the Paunsaugunt. Killed a 200-inch deer there in 1995, and
the Paunsaugunt is
southern Utah.
Yeah.
And those deer migrate right out of that part of Utah right into the Arizona Strip.
Yep. Okay.
On the Arizona side. But Washington, Oregon, Kansas, Texas, California, I've killed 200-inch mule deer in all 5 of those states, and those aren't necessarily the 5 one would
Was
guess.
California northern Utah?
Huh?
Was California northern? Was the mule deer in California northern or?
North Central.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I still love hunting mule deer, particularly archery. I saw your 2 bucks behind me today, Josh, from Sonora, Mexico, and I've hunted Sonora a lot. I think I've hunted 19 out of the last 22 years in Sonora. The biggest mule deer I've killed down there have been archery, not rifle. So I've been pretty fortunate down there, and I've hunted Canada for mule deer too. I've killed some. I've killed a couple 190 bucks in Alberta rifle.
Yeah. Are there provinces in Canada that you haven't killed a mule deer in where they exist?
Yes, I've not killed one in British Columbia. I've not killed one in Saskatchewan.
I'm now disappointed.
And well, I was truthful, Josh.
I appreciate it.
Now, but I'll tell you,
is it on the list here?
I'll tell you, BC is interesting in that BC produces a few big mule deer, Fraser River country, some of that Okanagan stuff that's above Washington on the BC side.
That makes sense.
But I think BC might be the single toughest place to kill a really big one, because I think as a non-resident, you'd really have to put in some time. You'd have to really research. I think killing one over 160 inches wouldn't be a big deal, but a big boy in BC would take some time, effort, and research. Alberta has been a hotbed for years. Big mule deer. I've had incredibly good luck there. I've killed some good whitetails as well. You oftentimes have a tag for both. And if you don't, you should have.
Yeah.
Sure.
Saskatchewan is the great sanctuary that still exists today. And the only way, as a non-resident alien, which 3 of us are, as U.S. residents, the only way we can hunt mule deer in Saskatchewan is on one of about 3 Indian reservations that have them. And that there's 3, there might even be 4, but there's 3 that have absolutely got them. The Mosquito being one. And there's some big deer up there, and they get killed every year. Southern Saskatchewan is famous for big mule deer. I got buddies who hunt the High Line in northern Montana right on the Saskatchewan line. I mean, literally, they will hunt from here to the shop down there, Josh, of the Saskatchewan line in mid to late November
like
in Montana.
The cut of the United States and Canada?
Yeah, I mean, they're literally on the border.
Yeah, because if a person's never seen that, there's a cut, like a logging cut that follows our whole border.
Yep.
It's very interesting, yeah.
Yep. I was on a bow hunt last year up there, and after I killed a buck,
Well, here's a question, not to
just out of
distract
Malta, I
you.
went up there and saw that exact thing.
What would happen if you shot one near the border and it ran across? Would you have to call Canada?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Hey, Canadian fisheries and biologists, I need to recover this deer.
I'm not sure if you would. Well, I think you got three options. You could speak with the Montana warden. That's option one, probably, because it'd be probably the easier one to get there the quickest.
Mm-hmm.
I might have him call the Saskatchewan authorities.
Yeah.
I might see, hey, if I had those Laponia light crispy boots on you got on, I might see how long it would actually take me to get over there and get back. Yeah, because that is the light and fast boot you got on there, Josh. So, but
It's the lightest
one of my
one you make in a
friends,
15, buddy.
the snowshoes. He tells me of seeing absolute thumpers every year, and it's a matter of will they come across? Will a hot doe lead them across? Will they come across to look for hot does? And while his party last year didn't kill a giant, they watched a guy kill a giant, a double dropper that was probably in the 190s, and that picture was on Instagram a fair amount. That was killed in the High Line. Mm-hmm. And it was a super tank. It was obviously a Saskatchewan buck. So, yeah.
Those northern bucks are built a little different, huh?
Bergman's rule, right?
Yeah.
Bigger body, in theory, bigger antlers. But, I mean, I think today, the mule deer have become a glamour animal. There was a point where I felt coming into 2000 that the pricing of, mule deer hunts, mule deer tags, various tags, what's called commissioner tags, that are available in Wyoming, available in Kansas, that there was a point where it was getting expensive. Little did I know what would come.
Yeah.
And we do anything to get in a time machine and go back to 1999, 2000, 2001, too. Because today, mule deer have replaced Dall sheep as the glamour animal in North America. And the pricing has gone along with it. And I shouldn't say replaced Dall sheep, but have certainly equaled Dall sheep as a glamour animal in North America. And mule deer pricing, whether it's down there in Sonora, Alberta, the better stuff in Utah, the better stuff in Texas, as an example, certainly Colorado, Nevada, all these places jump out. It's gone nuts. Yeah. It's gone. And the governor tags in these states, be it Arizona in particular, followed by Colorado, Utah, these things are going for prices of, historically reserved for sheep. Tags in the governor tag theater. So,
it's crazy.
I can say I was in on it at the right time. I actually would tell you I missed it by 10 plus years. When I was at Washington State, the greatest mistake I made as a hunter that was in Pullman is you could get 2 non-resident mule deer tags a year at that point in the 1980s. And the Snake River breaks on the Idaho side, be it Unit 11, Unit 13, Unit 18, those things were all right there beckoning. And I wouldn't hunt Unit 13 and 18 until 1 year out of college. And I was like, oh my God, I missed this.
Yeah.
I could have been down here.
Could have been down here for 4 years.
Could have been down here with 2.
Yeah, there's some big mule deer and elk that have come out of the Snake River.
Absolutely. And I would subsequently have hunted Unit 13, Unit 14, and 18 a reasonable amount. And, bring your legs and lungs on that one, man. It's nothing but straight up and down.
No.
Start at the top, please, sir. People, I got interviewed, Northwest Hunting Journal interviewed me over this Mule Deer 17, and they said, where would you like to go that you haven't been? I said, Saskatchewan.
That's a good question.
It's the great last sanctuary.
Yeah.
So...
Well, you've killed, incredibly impressive resume. We have a lot of bow hunters that listen to this podcast. What's a few of the things that like helped you seal the deal on getting close and getting your shot in the right spot?
Tricks or tactics you
Yeah,
use.
when you think about it, like,
Well, if I go back and
what
I
was your
look
learning
at,
curve like?
I've killed 3 mule deer over 190 with a bow in the last 11 seasons. So I guess I killed 15 over 190 with a rifle. And I think about these bucks, all these bucks that I've taken with a bow, both mule deer and whitetails.
Yeah.
And not all the whitetails were tree stand or ground blind. I killed a memorable 151-inch 12-point whitey buck in North Dakota with those tribal boys on a different year that I made a 2-mile stalk on and shot him at 34 yards. One of the more rewarding.
That's tough to do.
Cool.
Yeah.
2 miles. 2 miles.
Yeah.
There's a story in itself on that one, but I think what bow hunting has really, really, really done for me, for all of us, number one, it makes you a better hunter. I mean, it makes you a far, far better hunter.
And why is that?
Because you got to get in tune with every ounce of everything around you, starting with the wind,
Yeah.
starting with your clothing, with your what is your noise factor? You know, what's my apparel dress / noise factor this morning?
Yeah. How many whitetail hunters have bunged up a whitetail hunt because they drew back and something went screech, you know?
Well, and that's on the bow alone. It could start with your shoestrings
Yeah.
Yeah.
in your boots, which we'll have to give a little tip on that one, Josh.
Well,
in a minute, but
that is one thing that gets heavily overlooked by hunters that aren't bow hunters, is how noisy your clothes are.
Yep.
Everything that's on you. It's amazing. It's the first thing a real bow hunter will go up to do to a rack, and it's the same thing whenever you'd come in with the new line of whatever, walk over to the rack, start touching everything, go, nope, 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 nope. Ooh, what's this?
yeah.
This is actually quiet. What do you got here?
Yep.
It's amazing.
And rifle hunters act that way even though they don't need to.
Yeah.
And as a Sitka rep, I've had some fascinating conversations with consumers over rain gear.
Oh, I can imagine.
that, rifle guys will still want the quiet stuff, yet, no critter is worrying about that noise at 200 yards or further.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother subject for another day, which we can do. But what made bow hunting so fascinating for me was the idea that we can get closer, and we get closer, and we get closer still. And, at 40-some mule deer over 170 inches at one point 11 years ago, rifle-wise, it just wasn't, if we couldn't find a buck over 185 on a rifle hunt, it wasn't interesting anymore. So I started bow hunting because, number one, I got to start over.
Yep.
Yeah.
Literally start over. Not just with a method, but with a whole outlook.
But different seasons, times a year.
Different seasons,
Yeah.
and a 160 deer could be very interesting now. He was completely uninteresting with a rifle. It had become too easy, right? And rifle, looking back as a big whopping 11-year bow hunter now, but rifle is too easy. I shot a 188 mule deer in South Dakota last year with a 300 Ultra Mag, and that deer was in deep shit from the moment I spotted him. He was in utter deep shit. And but the bow it's more interesting. It's more insightful. It'll make you a better hunter. And when you blow a stock on a big deer with a rifle, at least for me, and it goes to pieces, odds are I'm somewhere between moderately to severely pissy. I blow one with a bow, no biggie. It's like fishing. Fish didn't rise and eat the dry fly. Let's go find another one.
Yeah.
We just go find another one. The average amount of stalks a guy makes to kill a buck with a mule deer buck with a bow is about 8. It's about 8. And Jason Carter told me that years ago. And I started keeping track of it. And it, once in a while you kill one on the 4th, but once in a while you kill one on the 14th. So it's about 8. It is. And it's changed the way I rifle hunt. I do not have a single rifle with a ranging system on it. And I killed 21 bucks in North America last year. I killed 13 with a bow and 8 with a rifle. I don't have a turret on a single scope. I consider myself an old school Sergeant York enthusiast. If I can't kill him sub 500 yards, I don't deserve to kill him. And all these guys that are shooting stuff at 6 and 7 and 8, 900 yards, hey, more power to them. And I hope they're working hard at the craft. I know Doug down here is a real expert in that, and that works for you. But bow hunting has taken me to where, quite frankly, I don't want to shoot a rifle over 400 yards because I shouldn't have to.
You should be able to get at least that.
If I got 9 yards from this mule deer in Nebraska last year with a bow, I ought to be able to get 199 yards from him with this 300 ultimate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's changed my perspective. And, your question was, sealing the deal. Anything that you're on your feet with, that you're stalking, the number one thing is patience. Patience. Cat-like patience. And what's interesting, and I saw this a lot in Nebraska, I saw it last year in eastern Montana where I killed a nice buck up out of Malta with a bow, is you have all this external noise. And you never really pay that much attention to it, I think, with a rifle on your shoulder. But boy, do you pay attention to it with a bow. It's wind, right? Hopefully that's in your face. But it's an airplane overhead. You're near a highway, it's a truck. It's a semi coming down that. All those things allow you to move in your stock. Airplanes are handy. Wind turbines are handy. There's all sorts of external noises. And I've learned to really play noises that are external, that animals are quite familiar with, quite educated to, that truck on that interstate or that highway or that country road, that truck is coming by is my chance to move. It's not just wind or wind velocity. And so those things have really helped me be more patient, be more effective, get closer. And then, the big thing with successfully taking big game animals is you need to have it in the moment of truth. You got to have your wits together. And I think that, comes with time. And I think some people have it and some people struggle with it.
Yeah.
They struggle with that moment in time, right?
Mm-hmm.
The moment of truth, the moment in time. And there's only been a couple of deer that I've ever missed with anything that haunt me. I've got a couple of deer that haunt me that I passed, that I should have shot. One on the Hickory, in particular, mule deer that we waited to see how wide it was versus just killing it and finding out how wide it was. And that's a story I should tell sometime because it wasn't until I killed that 215 buck here in Washington State that I felt like I'd truly healed from that New Mexico experience, which is quite a story, actually. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, bow hunting's cool. It's intimate,
It's where it's at. I think everybody ought to devote a chunk of their career to it. My biggest regret was just not starting earlier. I look at the damage that I've been able to do in 11 seasons with elk, with mule deer, whiteys, antelope. I've killed a pile of antelope, a bunch of bears with a bow, caribou, red stags in New Zealand. I've had a killer 11-year run with a bow, and at my age, I'm just hoping to get another 11-year run.
What bow are you going to hunt with this year?
Oh, it'll be Bowtech something. I'm a ambassador to Bowtech, and
that's cool.
What's that newest one, Josh? You're going to sell me?
The light one, the Virtue,
Virtue?
The Virtue,
or the Salute, or
I think it's the Virtue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just got those.
Yeah. I'm going to need to get one from you.
The Virtue is a sweet axle to axle
But-
length for hunting.
I've killed everything. Those $116 have all been with Bowtech the last 11 years. And I've certainly got my favorites. I think I've got a dozen bows laying around the room, but really only about 3 to 5 of them ever make the draft choice for the trip.
Wow.
You know, Josh and I go to Texas. I go to Texas a bunch. If you're a bow hunter and you like shooting arrows, you'll find your way to
Texas is a
Texas.
good spot.
Texas is probably the premier spot in the United States for that, outside of maybe Alabama. You know, we're going to get our reps in on bucks, management bucks, calls, does. And I always take 2 bows on hunts. I'm a real advocate. I've had 3 bows go to pieces with, you know, a cracked arrow, did this, did that, blew up a king, blew this up, blew that up. Mm-hmm. And I've killed deer because I had that second bow. Not everybody has a Josh Jones in camp to save your bow and save you.
Yep.
So I'm a big advocate that the traveling bow hunter ought to have 2 bows.
For sure.
And I've got a real habit with my Bowtech affliction that if I get a bow I really like, I buy at least 2 of them. And I've got a couple models that range 7.
doubles,
I got 4 of them.
That's a great bow.
I got 4 of them. And when I travel, I try to take 2 of the same, more particularly on mule deer. On whitetails, not necessarily, but sometimes that's different draft choices for different reasons. But
Yeah.
I'm a big Bowtech fan, and I've enjoyed being associated with them as an ambassador, and look forward to this next new one because who knows, Josh? I'll let you rig it up. We'll take it to Texas and
Try it out.
we'll start flinging arrows.
You have a hard stop at 12 today. You got to be out of here by 12.
I got to be out of here by 12:10.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're pushing. We're proud.
Yeah.
Stopping.
That was really fun hearing you talk about hunting and mule deer, and yeah, you got a wealth of knowledge. And honestly, if we didn't have to get you out of here, this is the kind of podcast I'd be okay with just letting it run for like 4 hours. I think we could do another part.
Well, he's back.
I'm
a couple
here.
times a year, 3
Yeah.
I'm here
times a year,
4 or
so
5 times
easy.
a year.
Yeah, it would be fun to
Easiest run it back
maybe
and do it
open a cold one and let it run a little longer because obviously you have a lot to share and, you know, many lifetimes of experience doing it. So, yeah, that was cool. Thank you.
Right on.
Yeah. And we never got to fly fishing, which is a bummer.
Well,
get
we can
there.
do another one. You know, you can pick,
It's always plenty.
you know, good subjects with me the mule deer is the obvious one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've done a bunch in New Zealand, which I still think has got some value in it,
Yeah.
hunting-wise.
Yeah.
We could have a podcast on, you know, where's hunting going at this point, and
Yeah.
you know, and
That's probably a more in-depth one that would be very valuable.
Yeah, and
'cause you've got more of a grasp on that than most people do.
Especially across many states. Yeah.
Many a conversation we've already had.
yeah,
but
and
it'd be good to hear. For other people to hear.
there's still some value left. A lot of it's in Oklahoma, Nebraska, Missouri, the Dakotas. A lot of the value is left the building. I mean, Utah's lost its mind on what they think this stuff is worth, and it's going to. Like I said, I think I was about 10 years late.
Yeah.
I wished I'd have been on about 10 years earlier, slightly earlier.
That's the way it goes.
Well, if you're 10 years late, I'm way late.
You're late, sir.
Way late.
And the best day to
Your,
start
fa- well,
was
your
We talk-
father.
yeah.
Your father was. Your father. You look at what your dad did, and when he did it, I mean, he was in on.
some golden years for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a
when
good
I
time.
first went to work for Sage, when I first went to work for Sage, I was in-house. I was in charge of sports shows and schools, casting schools. And so I got to do sports shows all over the United States and Canada. And I remember doing a show in Vancouver. So this would have been 1988, spring of 88. And right across from our Sage rod booth were 2 Stone Sheep outfitters, a guy named Hans Hansen, Scoop, I think he was Scoop Lake, and Barry Tompkins, Big 9 Outfitters. These are like legends of the fall in stone sheep history in British Columbia. You guys want to guess what a stone sheep hunt was in 1988?
88, $6,000.
I was going to say 5.
9,800.
Still
You
dirt
know what
cheap.
it is today?
Stone sheep, 125.
The top ones are that.
Yeah, I was going to say 75 to 100.
The cheap ones are 75 to
Yeah.
90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So 10 times what it was.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. I've killed 3 doll sheep, and I killed them all for a combination of 25,500.
Wow.
I killed 3 of them for that.
Wow.
You're barely going to kill one for that now. Barely.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But like I said, I wished I could have had a 10-year jump on it. And I wished I could have had a 15-year jump on the bow thing. I shudder at
Where it could have been.
where it could have gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't put off what you're waiting to do.
Moral of the story.
Yeah.
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 Get to getting.
And you'll learn lessons as you go.
Don't wait for tomorrow. What can be done today?
George, you know the best way to find this podcast?
No
You're
idea.
going to tell me.
Well, it's on Spotify, YouTube, and if you want to catch future episodes, subscribing wherever you're listening helps us out, and it gets you those episodes right away. So subscribe or leave us a review. That stuff really does help, and appreciate your time. That was very, very fun listening.
Right on. For those of you on Instagram, you can give me a follow at
Yes.
Mule Deer 16.
I thought you were saying
people
Mule Deer
go-
Why is it not
69.
Mule Deer 17?
I thought it was
Because
going to
I
be
was
Mule Deer
stuck.
69.
Because you were stuck at
Because
16
I was
when you
stuck
did
on
that.
16 trying to get Oklahoma sorted out.
Just straight up Mule
And
Deer
it's right
16.
when I got on
No.
Instagram and I just went with 16. Yeah.
Well,
Somebody
we'll,
said, you should change it. And I go, no, I ain't changing it.
Yeah,
We'll
It's
have
their
that.
story.
We'll have that link down below as well,
Yeah,
so
cool.
they can go check him
Yep.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But glad to do another one some other time. You
Are
guys.
you active on posting on Instagram?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll see a fair amount on mine. And I also have a fly fishing one called State of Spay.
State of Spay.
Spay is in spay casting. And
Golly,
I posted a pretty good one last night. So
Beautiful.
yeah, it's my people. Some people call hunting my other life. Some people call fishing my other life. But
yeah.
Well, they're
I
both,
got a career
they're
in
both
both.
pretty. They're both pretty epic.
yeah,
Pretty cool.
I like them both.
That's it. We'll
Pretty
catch you
amazing
guys back
guy.
for the next one.
Right on.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. So you're.